Fully destructible environments were once planned by Gaijin. There's a development video from 2014 that shows footage of Poland being absolutely taken to pieces. It's unclear why this never made it to the game, but performance issues were probably a problem, although I think a more reasonable explanation is the destruction of an entire map just didn't really work with Warthunder's gameplay. In late 2015, we did see Tunisia released with update 1.55, and we saw a fully destructible town. However, it doesn't come close to the destruction in the original video. Warthunder used to have a separate client for the Chinese mainland, but was shut down in mid-2022. The server had been going since 2014 and was stuck several updates behind the international client. The client was completely independent from the international players and had some very strange nation flags. Bro, it looks like some flags of a Hearts of Iron 4 mod. On the server there was some unique stuff like this Type 59 that was completely gold plated. Not much is known about it, but we do know that it's not a user skin, which meant everybody in a match would be able to see your shiny golden arse. It's not clear what was required to unlock the skin, and research on a Chinese mainland only server is more than a little tricky, but uniquely on the server they also had a Type 69 2A that wasn't available to the international client. For some reason the Type 69 2A is in the files of the international client and we can have a look at it, but we can't unlock it. Maybe we'll see the tank one day, but for now, all the vehicle does is cause a little bit of stress to Copsy and Oxy every time a content creator requests a test drive for the regular Type 69. On the 18th of August 2021, every Xbox player was simultaneously banned from the game. Hundreds of posts started popping up across social media in varying levels of distress that all of their progress in the game had been reduced to atoms. Redditors and forum members were all trying to figure out what was going on. And it turns out a problem with the Microsoft Store meant that Microsoft had made it look like a bunch of players had reversed the purchase, and when that happens, Gaijin will automatically ban the player to protect themselves from lost revenue. The way the system works is that you get put into negative golden eagles, and when you contact support, they'll simply tell you to repurchase the relevant amount of GE. However, of course, no one had actually reversed the purchase, and Gaijin support was soon overwhelmed. In the end, it only took a few hours for the situation to be resolved, but angry players had already left angry reviews on the Xbox Store, even though it wasn't Gaijin's fault. As some compensation, Gaijin did provide a day of premium to everyone affected. Warthunder AI bots are pretty rudimentary ARB score pinatas, but there's been several reports of some very strange players. It's not clear what the end goal is, as every account I've looked into has been abandoned after not long of playing. Usually the usernames are pretty nonsense, but one of the first examples I saw were these 4 C202s, and they had some pretty interesting usernames themselves. Looking up their player cards, we can see the accounts were created on December 30th, 2020, and within 72 hours of the accounts being created, they had played for 62 hours straight. These accounts have not been banned, but do seem to be completely abandoned. Hilarious. Despite quite literally being bots, they still managed to maintain over a 1.2 KD ratio. Part of the appeal of Warthunder events and tournaments is that the rewards are super exclusive, with the promise that they'll never return. One of these tanks is the Excellsior, and if you weren't around to play the event from many years ago, the only way to get the vehicle today is on the Gaijin market, and it's unbelievably expensive. However, with today's sponsor, World of Tanks, you too can own this brilliant, unique piece of late war engineering. By signing up with my link in the description, you will get access to not just the Excellsior, but 7 days of premium and 250,000 credits. I mean, boys, they've got incredibly detailed vehicle models that let you fight on a whole bunch of historical locations. And what's brilliant is the game is wholly focused on armored vehicles, which means the developers are always adding crazy new vehicles like this. And what's really nice is the game is all about the tanks fighting the tanks, so you don't need to worry about close air support or airstrikes. And the game is all about seeing how different tanks fight each other that might not have seen each other on a real battlefield. What's not to love? I mean, I think it's brilliant. There's over 550 tanks to play, and not only do new players get to play the Excellsior with my link, they can also test out the Cromwell Tiger 121 and T-34 85M for 10 entire battles. There's a bunch of interesting stuff that I've not played in any video game, so it will be really interesting to see how you lot get on when you click the link in the description to sign up immediately. Fireworks will launch in the hangar on special holidays like Christmas or New Year's, but you can actually manually set the fireworks to go off on a special date to you. You can set up a config file in the game files and fireworks will pop off on whatever date you specify, be it your birthday, your anniversary or whatever. Fireworks will only go off in the evening from 8 PM to 3 AM local time, but if you want to see them at a different time of day, you can just change your computer time and they'll go off whenever you like. I tested the limits of this and wrote some code to generate a config file that set the fireworks to go off every day, and if for some reason you want this, there's a pastebin link and instructions in the description. Around the time the game developed into the modern era, parts in FPE increasingly became more and more expensive to research. Frustrated players began spamming free parts in FPE in every comment section related to Warthunder across the internet, and the situation reached a boiling point as, while streaming on the official Warthunder channel, community manager Sean reacted in the most tone-deaf way you can imagine.
FPE in parts, free FPE in parts. Like, why not give everybody a free Abrams tank?
Gaijin were eventually forced to do something, and parts in FPE were made much cheaper, and the game has honestly been a lot better since. Much later, after the situation had died down, Gaijin was smart enough to see the funny side and set up a promotional event that gave out a free Abrams that we all really wanted. All you had to do was buy 10k worth of GE and you got an XM1 bundled in for free along with a unique title and decal. And now today, there's even the M1A1 AIM that really is a free Abrams. Modern War Thunder maps are fabrications, but the older maps are based on real places and are very accurate to the topography of reality. In a series of Reddit posts made by BlizzBang, you can see how the maps fit into Google Earth and historical aerial reconnaissance photography. I love the fact that the big ass hangar on the Normandy map is real. Port Novorossiysk is still a functional port on the Black Sea today, and the Kuban map actually shares its land with Port Novo. Of course, I think a lot of people realise places like Berlin are real, but maybe you don't realise that jungle is real too. In the northern tip of one of the Solomon Islands, you can see that the water is broadly the same shape. The resolution is pretty bad on Google Maps, but it kind of looks like there's even a War Thunder helipad nearby. War Thunder test flights have a dev console that can be accessed by enabling it in the config files. It's super useful for checking out new vehicles and being able to skip takeoff when testing specifics of flight models. There's a bunch of parameters that you can change that you wouldn't be able to edit normally. Of course, it goes without saying that you can only do this in a test flight, and this doesn't work in a multiplayer match. What's interesting is when you teleport super high up, you can actually see the curvature of the Earth is modelled in War Thunder, and if this doesn't convince flat earthers, I don't know what will. When you get down to less than 2 crew in War Thunder, you're considered dead. But last man standing is a long forgotten feature of War Thunder that meant when you were down to 1 crew, instead of being knocked out of battle, you were actually able to play with 1 crew. You were given a choice between firing the cannon or driving around. And there was a short delay between switching between seats. Last man standing was frustrating to play with, as I felt like I'd rather just be completely knocked out rather than having to awkwardly swap my crew around, and for some tanks it was super abusable and overpowered. Imagine a King Tiger with only a driver left at 500 meters. If you can't pen the upper front plate, there's not much way you're going to be able to get that last crew member unless you've got a lot of HE, but you couldn't also ignore him because at any moment the gunner could come back. In early 2021, Gaijin were accused of funding terrorism. There were War Thunder and Crossout sponsorships that appeared on the YouTube channel with the name,
Крупнокалиберный переполох.
that, who made videos around military equipment. The original article was a bit of a hit piece and was eventually taken down, but with the Wayback Machine we can see that their main complaint was the use of Russian vehicles and equipment with possibly suspicious origin. It's tricky for me, your average uninformed Westerner, to really understand what was going on and evaluate if something was fishy, but Gaijin's official response is that other than very large channels, they did not directly sponsor YouTubers and use third-party advertising agencies to handle sponsorships. Ultimately, the agency requested the video was taken down on Gaijin's behalf, and nothing really came of this long term. Golden Eagles are much more expensive on Steam. In the past, it didn't matter where you bought your Golden Eagles, but not too long ago, Steam prices were increased so that Gaijin would still take home the same amount of money even after Valve taken a cut of transactions. In 2019, there's an article from the Gaijin CEO Anton that complained about Steam's lack of marketing tools, so I guess Gaijin aren't too concerned with higher prices on Steam potentially potentially driving people away. In fact, I think that not many people actually realize that Steam have higher prices. The good news is that every Steam user playing Warthunder can simply just use the Gaijin store and still see purchases in-game for much cheaper. And if you keep buying stuff on Steam, you are actually just wasting money. If you want to save even more money though, what you can do is go to the link in the description, copy the link and make a new bookmark in your browser. Paste the link in, call the bookmark the Gaijin store, and then every time you want to buy something, just use that bookmark and you'll automatically get my 3% off using my affiliate code. And if you haven't used the code before, you'll get a free decal as well. It's brilliant. There's no reason not to. Make your bookmark immediately. No, but like actually do it. Like why would you not make a bookmark? Because then you get 3% discount like every single time. The vehicle consumable upgrades was a devlog that received so much backlash that Gaijin deleted the announcement post just hours after it went live. Part of the update were pre-battle training that would give all modifications an upgrade, and the effect would last for one battle, kind of like an XP booster. There was additionally going to be a modification upgrade package that applied a permanent upgrade to your vehicle, and most of the buffs weren't too bad, giving 2% boosts, but others were extremely overpowered and pay to win. Fortunately, this never made it to the live build of the game, and Gaijin haven't really mentioned it ever since. The 6 bush pack was a cosmetic controversy for Gaijin as they allowed players to purchase 6 massive bushes in a bundle for only 500 GE. Gaijin were pretty quick to remove the bushes from sale, but if you did make the purchase like I did, you were fortunate enough to keep the 6 bush pack you now owned. Hilariously enough, at the time the bushes were new, I had just started playing Warthunder maybe a day or two beforehand, and when I saw the bushes for a couple dollars, I thought it would just be funny to buy them as a joke. It turns out, as a result, today, I now own a piece of overpowered Warthunder history. The earliest naval premiums in the game are now some of the rarest vehicles ever added to Warthunder. Originally purchasable as a pre-order that gave beta access to Coastal Fleet gameplay, these boats were later discontinued. You could purchase a Kennedy's PT-109, which is the representation of the ship JFK actually served on during his time in the Navy. For the Russian pre-order, you could pick up the Project 1124 MLRS that had a Katyusha rack instead of a rear turret. And additionally, you could pick up the S204, which was pretty much just a copy and paste S100. The vehicles might return at some point as Golden Eagle premiums, but I think it's unlikely, as Warthunder Naval has changed so much since these were fledgling parts of new tech trees, and it's quite amazing to see how far the game has come since these were added. The development of helicopters in Warthunder has been turbulent, and today we have the PvE Enduring Confrontation game mode. But when Gaijin first added helicopters, the heli game mode also had PvP elements. It was the first time we saw fully modeled ground units controlled by AI where models had the same details ground forces, and the game mode used air arcade maps and placed helipads around the maps as capture zones. Painfully slow grind hasn't changed, and while today there's no option of realistic battles, it doesn't really matter, as back then you were pretty much forced to play arcade as the non-mixed queue took such a long time to find a match. The Warthunder Chinese consultant was a big problem for the Chinese tech tree for a long time. When it comes to finding info on new vehicles, the way it works is Gaijin has consultants from all around the world to help find historical data on vehicles, with a team of volunteers below the consultant to help find and organise various sources. The consultant for China was a chap called Saint, and to put in perspective how quite an excellent of a job he was doing, the community, once they'd had enough of his rubbish, ran a poll on the forums that asked quite a simple question: are you satisfied with the job Saint is doing? And my guy got absolutely ratioed into the floor with 3,275 votes to get rid of him to only 40 to keep him. The vote was pretty understandable when you read how Sam Tolster on Reddit describes that Saint would continually ignore anything that made Chinese vehicles any good, and documents he didn't agree with were conveniently too classified to be used. Meanwhile, when the PGZ was added, he miraculously found documents that were highly classified describing the massive nerf the gun depression needed, despite several contradictory sources being posted by the community. It seems this guy was the quintessential power-tripping moderator stereotype, and Gaijin ultimately removed him from his position, releasing a statement apologising. Some German tanks in the game were removed in 2019 when Gaijin announced that the Maus, Cromwell, Panther II and Tiger 105 would be made no longer obtainable. The Cromwell, Panther and Tiger 105 didn't exactly exist in their historical configuration that we see in the game, and with a shift towards more modern combat, there was less of a need to fill out the top ranks of German top tier with paper tanks. The mouse was removed for different reasons, more specifically to do with its balance, and the mouse is still obtainable about once a year on Gaijin's birthday when the tank is added to the German tech tree briefly, so if you're looking out for it, you'll be able to obtain it eventually. The Forgotten Rui Cat is a SAM that never made it into the game. Gaijin teased the introduction of the South African tech tree in a 2020 rewind video. The video ended by showing off the ZA-35, Rui Cat SPAAM and the Oliphant. Of course, the ZA and the Oliphant have made it to the game today, but we're still missing that spar. Turns out the vehicle never made it past the prototype stage as it became unnecessary after the withdrawal of the SADF from Angola. The question of course is, did Gaijin know that the vehicle was only a prototype when they included it in the rewind video? The M60 Ariete had a little bit of stabilizer drama. A little after the 7.7 Premium Medium tank was released with Italian ground forces, the forum nerds dug up some documents that showed the tank never actually had a gun staber historically. Gaijin decided to remove the stabilizer and the vehicle from purchase, but as compensation to folks like me who actually bought the vehicle, we were all offered a 30% discount on the OF40. Sadly, since the OF40 has now become a GE premium, my 30% discount is no longer valid. On the X Strike dev server, several new aerobatic smokes appeared available to all players. There were grass clippings, orange sparks, luminous green smoke, what looks like some insecticide, and some blue smoke. At the time, the New Year smoke had just been added to the game through Twitch drops, so it was assumed that Gaijin were looking to expand the cosmetics available in the game. Many of you will remember the IS-7 event as one of the grindiest events in Warthunder history. Let me introduce you to James. He is a Warthunder player like anyone else who, along with everyone else, wanted to unlock the IS-7. James hadn't the time to grind the event as he was busy looking after his wife, who at the time of the event was unfortunately going through treatment for cancer. He wrote about this on the comments of a marketing post on Gaijin's official page, and surprisingly the official account responded. They explained how a member of the Warthunder team was lost in 2015, and as they understood the importance of family and appreciated him as a player, would very kindly offer that his IS-7 unlock requirements were to be that he cook a nice meal for his family and take a group photo. Obviously Gaijin never publicised the photo, and we don't know if James ever got his IS-7 or what happened. If you're still out there, James, if you're still playing War Thunder, I hope everything works out for the best in the end, and if you ever need someone to play IS-7 with, do let me know. There's been many a game mode of War Thunder's time, and Capture the Flag was once part of War Thunder, and it's pretty much what you'd expect as players play a normal match, except instead of capture zones, the objective is to bring a flag back to a friendly base. I remember playing this a little bit on Poland, where I just zoomed around in the BT5 to capture the flag repeatedly until we won. I hope the game mode comes back as an event at some point soonish, and I'd love to play it on some of the bigger maps like Fulda, Maginot or Ardennes. Initially, the design for progression in War Thunder was rather different. Before late 2013, every single nation had a singular cumulative RP pool, and once you just hit the requirement, you would just unlock every tier of vehicle and then have to purchase them with silver lions. This was long before ground forces were even a twinkle in Gaijin's eye, and each of the tech trees were much smaller in general. When you'd unlock a new tier of vehicles, sometimes you would unlock literally nothing or just a single plane, and other times you would unlock as many as 6. Interestingly, under the old system, there was a cap on how much you could earn from one particular aircraft, so you wouldn't see those people with like 10,000 kills on a single vehicle. Something I wish that was still around today was a button to just tell the game to give you a random nation to play. I'd love it if the game could just pick a random vehicle for me to play. I wouldn't even need a bonus reward. It would just be a nice feature to see. It seems Gaijin have a secret space program. The first human orbital spaceflight took place on April 12, 1961, where the legendary Yuri Gagarin reached a pretty nice height of 169 kilometers into Earth's upper atmosphere. 60 years later, to mark the anniversary of the Vostok 1 rocket, on April 12, 2021, Gaijin added the rocket to the War Thunder hangar. When you logged in for the first time in a day, you could see and hear the rocket being launched in the background of the hangar. The Ju-52, hidden deep in the game files, is an AI-only vehicle. Thanks to Jaffe Man on Reddit, we know that we can observe this aircraft in the Divide and Conquer single mission. In a 2014 video, we can see the Ju-52 crash into an old version of Kuban, and is the plane that actually carried the document that created the elusive dynamic D-point objective. The D-point, of course, is an infamous part of War Thunder's quick comm system itself.
Attack the D-point!
And it seems a little redundant to have it in the game. However, the D-point did actually exist. It was this dynamic objective where the Ju-52 would drop off documents and a new strategic point would be created. Capturing the zone didn't do too much other than just remove a chunk of tickets from the enemy team, but they were a decent amount of tickets and could turn the tide of a battle. More recently though, we did see the D point make a return in the 2021 April Fools event where the D, E and F points were capturable. Players on console can lock onto aircraft behind terrain, and it even works on realistic battles. What's insane is you can simply plug a keyboard and mouse into your console and have the full access to every advantage a PC player would have while having what is essentially wall hacks on a console. The Kai-10 in Warthunder is an old biplane that's since been removed in a similar way to the Po-2. People refer to this plane as the original Warthunder helicopter as it had a bug where the power to weight ratio was above 1. I'm surprised flight model oddities like this don't happen more often, and in this old footage you can see quite how silly the old flight model really was. Warthunder had Battle Royale before Fortnite. The special event game mode had a map that got smaller and smaller with unique pickups around the map. There was a med kit to heal your crew, a repair kit to, unsurprisingly, repair damage, with extra FPE charges laying around, and the extremely powerful super artillery, which was an experimental form of artillery that just simply destroyed any enemies within the radius. Initially the game mode had a very small silver lion rewards, but later on Gaijin gave premium packs and unique decorators for those who were able to win many matches. For a while, Gaijin even liked to use Battle Royale on the dev server as a game mode to let players unlock the new content quickly. Some of the profile icons in the game you can see today are actually real people. For example, this is Sabaru Sakai, who was a pilot for the Imperial Japanese Navy during the Second World War. The artwork are recreations of real photographs, and all of the art is pretty excellent, except Gaijin didn't quite nail Chuck Charles Yeager. Sadly, many of the people who became our beloved profile icons passed before Gaijin had begun work on Warthunder. It's important to remember the sacrifices these men and women who served in the fighting forces of the world made, and in researching this video, I read of their heroic accolades, which was more than a sobering reminder of the reality that the game we play ever so much is based upon. It makes you wonder what these people, many of whom born before modern computing, would think of Warthunder if they could see it for themselves today.